Absolutely, to define your budget every year and make sure you're getting the money you need and not too much, not too little, all that stuff. So I understand completely about, and if, you know, in the, absolutely on the sanctuary city side is a problem and it bothers me. But instead of fighting to make those cities like San Francisco that I will never make any headway with, just because of their militant attitude towards this, you know, I could waste a lot of effort and lose there. Or I could use a lot of effort over here and hopefully win and solve the problem across the country, everywhere. And really for the better. I mean, we could, even if we knuckled these cities under and made them follow the rules, we still have yet to solve the illegal immigration problem.
Agreed. The problem has to be solved. Just how do you get to that
Yeah,
solve?
and I just want to go for it all. Let's just fix it and stop playing around and kicking it down the road. Sir?
I totally agree with what you've been saying. What I would like to get from you is, everybody talks about this issue. And, well, quite frankly, I worked in the fields when I was a kid with Congressional. And I worked with illegals as a semi-retired adult in the fields. What do you think is the major roadblock to getting your solutions in place?
Fear of change. And one of the things, I mean, and I've thought through this a little bit. I'm going to think about it a lot more once I get through the primary, and then we'll be having absolute strategy meetings with my staff going forward on how to do this and how to achieve these goals. But like I said, I'm going to balance the budget. Now, immigration policy is one of those things that needs to be folded into the budget. You talk about wasting some of your money. We have approximately 25% or a quarter of the prison population in California are illegal immigrants. However, you don't want to deport them because our border is so porous that they'll be back in your streets creating more victims by next week. So you want them in your prison. So immigration policy is part of it, and it will save money. It will be one of the ways we save money. So I want to focus on that budget, and I want to pull some of these in, and I'm going to have to get there and build some bridges, build some coalitions. I'm going to start what's called the Balanced Budget Caucus. And if you are for balancing the budget, you're joining. If you're not, how can you not be for balancing the budget? I'm going to give them about 6 months, and I still got to do a strategy session on this. Got to figure it out. I will have some learning to do when I get there. I don't know how to do everything right away. But we will be working on building a coalition that works in this direction. There will be some sausage making. There will be some arm wrestling, and I'll be lifting weights. I trust you. All right, trust me on that. But it'll be trying to make these. And as a squadron commander in the Air Force, I'm like the bottom level of upper management, which means I lose a lot when I'm out there fighting, right? But I win some, and it means I'm at the table. At least I'm at the table with the colonels and the generals, and I have a voice. Well, as a freshman congressman, I've been preparing as a squadron commander to do that very job as a freshman congressman. I've learned how to get some wins and then build on those wins and make things start going in the right direction. So I will not be able to do it on day one, but I will work on it. I will, be the evangelist for the idea. I'll go out there, build these coalitions, and do everything I can to make it happen. Can't guarantee anything to you from where I stand here today.
I'll just give you some idea where I'm coming from.
Sure.
I personally believe that the people that killed the Bracero program were the farmers themselves. The
Back in
Bracero
the
program
60s.
was a lot more expensive than illegal aliens. I mean, the bottom line is, I've been in the fields in the Imperial Valley where they had people living in the ditch.
Yeah.
And that was real cheap.
Well, and that'll be part of the immigration policy. I'm glad you bring that up. The taxes, the guest workers will pay a tax, a federal tax, but it will be less than what an American pays because they're getting less services. I mean, it'll cover roads, police, fire, schools, because I don't want, if their kids are here, and this is a little controversial, but I've thought through it, and I don't want the kids running wild on the streets if they're up here. I'd rather have them in schools learning. So that tax is going to pay for the kids in school. And then what we'll do is you cannot have a guest worker more competitive than an American worker. So the employer, will make up the difference in taxes on their side. And so if you're hiring a guest worker or an American, there won't be a competitive advantage either way. And so those taxes are paid. And also, now that they're living in the light, and this I think is important for human dignity and rights, now that they're here legally, you won't have that unscrupulous paying them less than what they should be earning. So it's another win for them. Hey, thanks. And it'll take care of that. And for those folks, and this is how I am not a special interest guy. I mean, I want to do what's best for the American people. And, you know, having people living in ditches and paying them dirt to be here, that's not good for anybody.
I spent a lot of time, and I worked every summer when I was going to college in the tomato fields. I've been around it a lot, and my conclusion is that, like I said, the people that killed the Bracero program killed it because it was too expensive.
Yeah,
They had to pay a lot of money other than just the wages, and they had to pay the wages. I remember me going in the fields where they'd pull the immigration truck up on payday, would be parked out front. Oh,
see, that's wrong. That's just wrong stuff. That's wrong. I have worked next to, I have to believe they were legal, but I don't know because I was an employee and I wasn't privy to the information. But I have worked next to immigrant workers, landscaping in college. And I'm at the peak of my physical activity. I am in shape, I'm strong, I'm bench pressing 300 pounds. I'm the man, right? Ask my wife. Woo!
He is the man.
And I get to the end of a 10-hour day and I'm sitting in the shade, sweat, drinking my Gatorade, going, I can't wait to get home. And there's that worker hauling some more stuff, putting me to shame, going, how does he do that? And then the next day, the same thing. Goodness. So they were good workers, yes.
Did you realize that you'll be a minority going to Congress? My understanding is that there are a minority of vets in Congress anymore.
Yes. When I ran in 2010, I knew the number. I don't know if it's the same now after the new Congress. But the congressional approval level was 18%, and there was 18% vets in Congress. I just thought that was kind of ironic.
Isn't that amazing?
You want to increase the approval rating in Congress, you increase the amount of vets. And I'm the only vet in the race. Frank?
Yeah, what's your position relative to our foreign policy on Iraq, Afghanistan, and in general the war on terror?
This is a new war, and I've fought it for over 10 years now. I mean, as you know, a pilot, so not in the policy-making area. It is a new kind of war. They don't wear uniforms. They don't have any rules of engagement whatsoever. I mean, you hear horror stories. Guys pretend to be dead, and you'll go up to them, or pretend to be wounded even, and here comes our corpsman to take care of them, to save their life, and they roll over, and there's a grenade, and they blow themselves up along with the Army people trying to save their life. They'll use kids. There is no morality, there is no scruples, nothing with these people. They are dangerous. And not only on the battlefield, but to you, the American citizen, living your normal life here in America. And there's been a lot of controversy on how we fought these wars. And we have not done everything right. Market garden, Luke, before D-Day?
It was the breakout.
What was the terrible failure before D-Day?
Dunkirk was the evacuation plan. There was a radar deputies in the.
Market garden.
That was long
That
after
was
D-Day.
World War II.
All right, so whatever it was.
I'm a World War II buff.
There was a practice run for D-Day, a similar invasion up north.
Kia.
What's that?
Kia.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And it was a terrible failure. Terrible. And if we would have just looked at that one thing, we would have never gone to D-Day and done that thing that eventually won the war. So we have made some mistakes in this war on terror, but we can't look at them as reasons to get out of it, or to quit, or to give up. We just need to learn from our mistakes and go on. But we gotta stop the political correctness. We gotta stop worrying about everybody's opinion. And we gotta just do what's best, what's right. The best way to fight wars is to win. Get in there, beat your enemy, and get out. It saves lives, you know? And so we have to have these wars fought with victory in mind and not all this political correctness. I'll tell you what, you put a bunch of militants in a mosque and they're shooting at me, shoot them, bomb it. I don't care, get rid of that. They are the enemy. And this idea of trying to save, you know, whatever, and we're losing our lives because of it, and it's dragging the war on farther. It's the wrong way to fight. You know, didn't we learn that in Vietnam when we were having a problem with Viet Cong coming from Cambodia and all those other places? And, oh, we can't go there. The rules of engagement. The rules of engagement need to be to win. What's best to win? Afghanistan, we're finishing up in there, and we've got some security forces agreements. I think we just had those. We're going to have a presence there, and I think we should, to be ready for this continuation of hostilities that just, I don't know if it'll ever stop until we somehow change that area that has not changed in 5,000 years. I don't know how you stop that. I really don't. But we have to protect ourselves. We have to protect ourselves. Iraq, it was a terrible disappointment that we couldn't get a SOFA agreement in place. I don't know why that didn't happen, but it was a terrible failure on our part in diplomacy to not have that. And then when you talk about Iran, I think you asked, so to finish up Iraq and Afghanistan, victory must be the goal. What is victory though? We must define it. And as a congressman, I ask my president, if it is President Romney or President Obama, I will say, what is victory? You know, I spent the last 12 years of my life trying to get victory, and I don't know what it was. Will you please define victory for me, and I'll get it for you. I guarantee it. The United States military will get victory if you tell me what it is. So that would be how I would face that. Now on Iran, very difficult. That's a very big country, very complicated country, a lot of things going on there. I do not want to start a fourth war, if you count Libya as a war, a small one. I do not want to start a fourth war with Iran. And I think that the 21st century reality with nuclear weapons is somebody that we do not want to get a nuclear weapon will get one, whether it's a rogue nation like North Korea or Iran, or a criminal group like Al-Qaeda or Hezbollah or something like that. So we're going to have to learn how to deal with it. And missile defense is, you know, priority number one. North Korea is trying to launch missiles that are going to hit Hawaii, hit the West Coast. Iran's got missiles that can hit Israel right now. Missile defense is one of the ways that we can protect ourselves against these rogue nations. And the idea that we would give that up is ludicrous. That's good use of your tax dollars to have a missile defense system that can shoot down a nuclear-tipped missile headed our way. Now the special operations, intelligence, again, against some of these terrorist organizations that might get it, detectors, you know, at airports, all kinds of things. You know, the TSA, we like to beat them up. I deal with the TSA every day I go to work, sometimes several times. But they are trying to keep you safe. As rough a job as that is, as sometimes silly as I pass the 4-year-old or the 8-year-old getting down. Really? They're trying to keep you safe. We just need to keep getting better at that, learning from our mistakes and moving forward. And we have to have in mind that we're putting a defensive net up that is going to prevent that stuff to happen. One of the reasons why we went into Iraq, and it was a very controversial move, because America has always taken the black eye first before we went to war. Whether it was Pearl Harbor, you know, we were trying to stay out of that. We were kind of giving the British a bunch of, you know, guns and bullets, and we were losing ships going over there, but we were trying to stay out of it. World War I, Wilson was elected on keeping us out of the war. And then the Lusitania, right? 9/11, a terrible day. We took the black eye. We were attacked, so we went and kicked your butt and won that war. Iraq only threatened us. And we attacked them because of a threat and not because of an action. And a lot of people, they argue, they don't necessarily articulate the controversy of Iraq. Iraq, America attacked first. That's why it was so controversial. It was out of our character. But the reason why we attacked first is because the fear that it wouldn't have been a black eye we took from Iraq, it would have been cutting off our arm or a stab to the heart that would have killed us, meaning some sort of weapons of mass destruction to a place like New York or LA or DC, whether it was a nuclear bomb or some sort of biological whatever. We were unwilling to take that risk. And after all of the proper negotiations of trying to talk to that man, Saddam Hussein, to say, stop it, we don't trust you, we're not going to allow this to continue, if you don't turn around, he kept thumbing his nose at us, and we said, fine, we're not taking the risk. So, and then how we fought it is another thing. I mean, I was over there. I was actually in Kuwait the day we started throwing bombs in to Baghdad. And I remember when Baghdad fell, watching the news and seeing the looting going on. First of all, I'm going, I thought these were Muslims. I thought this was against their religion. But I could not believe the chaos that ensued after our, military victory. We made some mistakes over there, no doubt about it. We make mistakes in every war. We have to learn from them and get our victory, not use them as excuses to turn tail and run. So, all right, I pontificated on that one for a while. I'll answer. You follow up, Frank?
No, I'm just gonna go to a domestic one if nobody else has a question.
Who else got a question?
I don't know what all has been discussed.
Who's next? Next question.
What's the common question really quick? Okay, it's always, the USS Cole has always bothered me because that was a warship and I thought it was an act, our guys get killed and all that, and nothing's ever been mentioned. But I'm going crazy. What is this building in Ohio for the VA that is not being used? Is that like another one like some of the buildings we have here that's been funded and no money for staffing?
I got it off of a list, the top 20 stupidest things we spend our taxpayers' dollars on. I think it was more politically correct, but that's pretty much what it was. And it described, it was a pink octagon house for monkeys. And that's all it said. And at VA, it said they spent $175 million on buildings they don't use, including a pink octagon house for monkeys. Now, I'm guessing, I would guess, I'm just guessing, that at some point it was medical experiments on monkeys, and that's where they housed the specimens, and they've never gotten rid of it. That would be my guess, but whatever the reason is, why are we paying money for it?
Since you started your talk, Tim found two more good ones.
Yeah, there was, well, he was talking about it, so I looked it up, because there's the shrimp treadmill thing to test the metabolism of shrimp that we spent almost $700,000 on. And I'm still looking for the reason why this next one was a test and how much we spent on it, but Jello wrestling at the South Pole.
No,
I'm not joking. Honestly, it was in the same article as the shrimp thing.
This stuff, right? That's the culture that we gotta change. I mean, oh, and I spend your tax dollars, okay? I spend them as a commander of the United States Air Force Reserve. I write those checks, and I have some things come across my desk that look good to the person asking for them, and maybe have some substance to them. Maybe it's a good idea, but I have to look at all my other requirements, and I say, you know what? That's not worth the money I have. I have all these other things that I need to spend money on. That doesn't make it to the level that I have enough money for. And then, okay, and that's maybe a legitimate need. And then every once in a while, not very often in my line of work, I get these crazy ideas that I don't care if I had an unlimited budget, I'm not spending your money on that idea. No. But somehow in our federal government, there isn't that filter. And that's why I think I can do a really good job for you as a congressman, because I have that filter to say, no, not going to spend your money on that. Crazy.
I have a topic, the tort reform is near and dear to me being an orthopedic surgeon.
Yeah.
And I've been sued a few times for this kind of thing. And I even said, I put my foot down and said, no way, I'm not going to settle with another one ever. And I took one all the way to trial a couple years ago and won. I found out it cost $118,000.
Exactly. Exactly.
So my feeling is that there's too many people in Congress who are trial lawyers as in their past lives.
Yes. Or Or they're heavily funded by the trial.
Yeah, how are you gonna fight?
Yeah, well, one, I've not gotten a buck from the trial lawyer that I know of, and I don't expect to. Again, I mean, you're gonna hear, and I'll just address this elephant in the room. You know, my competitor has all this money, right? Well, where's she getting the money from? I don't know. I'm not gonna make any accusations. But my money's coming from people like you. My special interest is you, my constituent. I'm beholden to nobody. Now, after I win this primary on June 5th, which I completely expect to do, I expect a lot of money to come in.
And you'll
Because
be real
this
beholden to
chance
us.
of replacing.
Yeah.
What's that?
And you'll be real beholden to us.
Yeah,
That's right.
but I have this chance of replacing, you know, imagine California replacing a liberal Democrat with a conservative Republican. It can happen. So I expect money to come in. Yeah, I expect it to come in, but I will already have been, you know, it's not going to be beholden. Now, here's also my philosophy on lobbyists. I don't think lobbyists are evil. I really don't. I think they're doing their job. And as your congressman, I'm going to look to lobbyists for information. Because I see whether it's an Exxon, you know, corporation lobbyist in my office, knowing that I'm for drilling, so he's here to say, here's why we need to drill, and oh, by the way, here's a check for your campaign. Or it's my daughter walking in saying, Dad, I want you to put an earmark in to have a park next to our house. You know? They're the same to me. And you're a lobbyist when you ask me questions and want to see things happen. You're trying to convince me to vote a certain way. Nothing wrong with that. And I will reach out because I don't know everything. I'll reach out to people who are, you know what they're doing in certain areas. And if we happen to agree or they want to see me elected, great, put some money in my account. That's fine. But do not expect that money to sway my vote. Do not expect me to be bought. That's who I see as evil. It's the congressman who lets his vote be changed by that money. That's where the problem is. So trial lawyers, I mean, I am going to push for tort reform, litigation reform. I just don't think that the system, the way it's designed right now, is justice. When somebody who is just looking to scam the system and win the lottery can do it with somebody who has a little bit deeper pockets, like, you know, a malpractice lawsuit. Settle. There. I've heard about, on a story, I think it was Stossel, drive-by lawsuits by lawyers checking out for ADA infractions. They just drive by, oh, there it is.
They just use Google Earth.
That's ridiculous.
Squeeze in.
Yeah, with my new job, I've actually heard of a couple people doing this, but they don't even drive by anymore, they use Google Earth.
Oh,
Yes.
can you imagine?
Google Earth, yes.
Yeah.
And it's gonna cost you how much? Anyway, surely, yes.
Are you gonna read the bills? Obviously, Obamacare got passed because nobody read it, and that includes your competition. I mean, Nancy herself said, you know, we gotta pass it so we know what's in it.
Right.
Well, now we're finding what's in it. I cannot believe that any questionable congressperson or senator in the United States, and that includes Mr. Garamendi, would vote for something like that. So they obviously didn't read it, and they truly don't understand it. So I need a commitment from you that you're gonna read it.
I will not commit to you that I'll read every bill, because I didn't need to get through all of Obamacare to vote no.
Okay.
If I vote yes, I will have to have an understanding of the bill to where I'm not surprised. And to have a 2,000-page bill is ridiculous. Why do we do that? I don't know. I read a great article about, we had some bank reform a while back in the 80s after the savings and loan thing, and it was a 200-plus page bill. It took 10 years for the regulators to work their way through that bill to fully implement it. You're talking about 2,700 pages with Dodd-Frank. Does that mean it's going to take 100-plus years to get through that bill to fully implement it if you use the 200-page bill?
Make it up as you go along.
So bills have got to be more reasonable and more simpler. I will tell you this, so I'll commit this to you. What I want to do when I'm your congressman is on my website, my congressional website, I will have each bill. And I will have an explanation of what it is, what it's doing. And I will have 3 columns, yes, no, I don't know. I'll have a yes if I'm voting for it, and I'll explain why. I'll have a no if I'm voting against it, with an explanation, and I don't know. And in that I don't know, it may say, I haven't read it yet, I haven't read enough of it yet, I haven't got through it yet. I'm looking for your input, waiting for what you think about it. You know, I have certain principles that I talked about that you can count on me not to bend on. If one of my principles is something you just can't deal with, then vote for John Garamendi. Because I will not bend on my principles. But there's a lot out there that I need to know what you think, so I can represent you properly. So you may have a column that says, I don't know, what do you think? Let me know. Will I read every word on a 2,700-page bill?
No.
No. But I will understand it intimately, where I'm not surprised that there's a 3.9% tax on certain houses above a certain rate, or there's a 1099 provision on any expenditure from a business for $600 or more. You know, I remember having that debate with George Miller. You know, I was like, we gotta remove that. You know, I love this commercial. Let me go off for just a second. I had these debates with George Miller, and I was fascinated. I mean, here is little old me, you know, Rick Tubbs debating a 36-year Democrat icon, right? And at one point, he said a lot of things, and I put a commercial together. It's on YouTube. You gotta find it. But I had like 5 or 6 of them. I had to edit it down to 3, where George Miller said, it's great that Rick Tubbs likes something about Medicare. It's great that Rick Tubbs wants to remove the 1099 provision. It's great that Rick Tubbs wants to be on the right side of every issue. And you don't. So, and then I finished that off, and I said, now here's where Rick Tubbs disagrees with George Miller. So I will understand bills before I vote for them. I won't read all of them if I'm voting no, because I don't need to. I'll probably finish as much as I can, just so I can say no more adamantly. But yeah, I will have a detail. And if it is a bill that I have not been able to read and understand before the vote, I'm going to abstain. I will not vote. I will not pick a side if I don't understand the bill. And if John Boehner doesn't like that, then give me another couple days to read it before I vote, you know? So, any other new ones before I go? Marcia, you're new.
You commented about simplifying bills, and I think that is huge, you know, when they use this word comprehensive, it sounds, you know, this all-inclusive has a good connotation. But I think that we have found that it has a really negative effect. And I want to know how you would go about helping to convince the Congress, and on the senators, I mean, inclusive, representatives and senators, that they need to narrow the scope and have these simple bills and not have all these amendments and riders and whatever things, you know. And
the Senate has something called a germane clause, or words to that effect, that if it's a bill going through everything connected to it, it's got to be connected. It's got to make sense. House doesn't have it. I would support a similar clause for the House, so you couldn't have all these weird riders. Any bill that I write, you'll be able to understand, because I'm a pilot and a mathematician, not a lawyer. Okay? I do think part of my job will be to help constituents understand what laws are. I mean, there's going to be some things in there that I'm going to have to learn, you know, words, certain things that make sense because of the way it's written. So that's where I'll have on my website, this is what the law is and what it means. So there'll be a little education on all our parts as we go forward. And I might just be a pain in the butt when they keep putting all this lawyer speak and I'm sitting there, okay, explain that to me. You know, either write it simpler or explain it to me. And wait a minute, let me take notes so I can put it on my website. It's got to make sense. I mean, and I'm kind of teasing a little bit with that, but government is way too complex. You know, our tax code being 20,000, 60,000, whatever pages long it is, government shouldn't be so complex. And the way they write bills should be a lot simpler. And you can count on me to write it to where you can read it. And you count on me to go in to where they are complex and go figure it out and try to make it make sense in my website when I explain it to you. So Angela, did you have a question?
No, I was.
Oh, Tom, go ahead.
Earmarks, and a lot of people are talking about earmarks, and I'm not going to mention the individual who's running, but he was in the Republican primary, they said he doesn't vote for any earmarks at all, but if you go back and study what he would do is find bills that had no possibility of being voted down, would throw an earmark in there and vote against them and get his earmark through, and he would say, but I didn't vote for it.
Nice.
That's yucky.
That's the kind of, stop that. Be
I
honest.
think I know who you're talking
You
about.
and I,
Ron.
and when I say you, I'm talking to every individual in this room. You and I will not agree on every issue every time. But as Ronald Reagan said, if we agree on 80%, we're friends. There will be votes I take that you will say, why did you do that? You should have voted the other way. You'll call me up and I'll answer, or we'll get in touch somehow. You say, that was stupid, why'd you do that? Well, here's why I did it. We'll do that on occasion. I don't need to lie to you. I don't need to deceive you to be your representative. I need to be honest with you and explain my decisions. That's what leadership is. And that's one of the things I offer. I'm willing to take a stand. I'm willing to explain myself to you and stand on my arguments. I'm also willing to listen to you to see if you have a better idea. I've only got one brain. I don't think of everything. 700,000 brains in this district. I can learn a few things from you. Okay? So I won't be doing any of that kind of stuff.
But I'm just saying that people get around,
Yeah.
he isn't lying, he isn't
No,
lying.
no,
I never
it's
voted
not.
for one, I didn't vote for one, he didn't
Yeah.
say, well, I put it in there knowing it would pass, but I voted against it.
I'm not gonna be sneaky to win your vote. I really am not. I'm just gonna tell you what I think and how I'm going, and we'll disagree on occasion, but I gotta believe that we're gonna agree more often than we disagree. And, eventually, maybe you will elect me out of here because enough disagreements
Well, I think-
happen or whatever. But I'll be happy with that, because guess what? I'll go back to my.
I think you agree with everybody else, we're tired of the games.
Yeah, but the bottom line is I'm going to do what I think is best for America. I'm gonna do what's best for our district, and I'm gonna do what I believe is morally right. And you can count on that. And that's a promise, very few that I'll give you, but that's a promise I'll give you. That's what I'll try to do. We're wrapping up here, got
No,
time.
yeah, wrapping it up.
Got a couple more. What do you got, Frank?
I drove 100 miles to be here.
Give her.
I was probably 2 blocks from where he lives over there. Drove here for this.
What do you got?
I want to know how you're going to deal budget-wise and how you're going to deal with the farm influence.
Yeah.
Like their subsidies, what are you going to do
You know
with
what,
it?
and that's a great question.
Okay, you did that already today?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Okay,
great.
You
But
were
I will
late.
answer your question because it's a great way to kind of present what I'm going to do. When I talked about the Rick Tubbs budget, and I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to elaborate on this a little bit more. You see on some of my signs out there, it says, together we can be the next great generation. And really, it should say, we have to be the next great generation. The last great generation, the World War II generation, who sacrificed immensely to make sure our American dream was alive and well for our children and grandchildren. Us being those children. And they were proud of what they did. They fought a war. Fortunately, we don't have to fight a war to be that next great generation that passes that American dream down to our children and grandchildren. What we need to do, as all of America, is just give up some of our dependency on the federal government. To balance that budget, we're going to have to shrink that government. We're going to have to take away some of the things that people rely on from the federal government. We're going to have to take that burden on ourselves. We're going to have to step up. But if we do it as a national movement, if we put together a budget that is comprehensive, oh, she just walked out.
Yeah, you lost that one.
Yeah. But no, that's what she loves me, I love her. But anyways, if we do a comprehensive budget that puts shared sacrifice in it across all levels, including farm subsidies, okay? Then it's a national movement, it's what we wear with a badge of honor, of pride. What did you give up to make sure our children and grandchildren had a better life than we did, that could experience the opportunity and freedom that we had, that could do better than us and have those opportunities? Well, I gave up my so-and-so tax loophole, my corporate tax loophole that I would have given to the Democrats over the summer, unlike my speaker. I would have gave them that loophole to get more cuts. When you talk about 50% of the American people not paying taxes, well, I started paying 2% taxes or whatever seems to be appropriate. We wear it as a badge of honor. We go together and move forward together to accomplish this goal of balancing that budget and paying off this debt so that our children aren't burdened with it. So farm subsidies, every other thing, everything's on the table. The military, I'm a military guy. I know how to save 5–10% of military spending right now. Go to a 2-year budget and don't threaten me with cutting my next year budget if I don't spend all my budget this year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's not a hard idea. Why have we lived with it for so long? It drives me nuts. I pull my hair out. I'm ordered every year, spend your money. I don't need it all. I'm a fiscal conservative. Spend it, we'll lose it. Yes, sir. And I buy a bunch of hammocks for my kid. It's a legitimate expense. It's for crew rest in the air because the bunks on the C-17 aren't that good. It was legitimate. But was it necessary? No. Not in my opinion. But I had to do it. I'll give you another one. Before I was a commander, trying to spend end-of-year money. Well, as we sit around and discuss what can we buy, well, shoot, we got 5 flying squadrons. It'd be good to have a TV in each of the squadron. Keep up on the news, see what's going on. Let's get 5 flat screen TVs. Corner over there. Well, we better order 10 because they're going to cut it. So we'll get 5 if we order 10. What do we get? 10. 5 sat in the closet for who knows how long. They're probably still there. And the one in my squadron sits dark every day. So anyway, there's money to be saved. And it can be saved in all corners. I would spend more money in places like the Medicare Fraud Department. Building the Auburn Dam, increasing Shasta Dam. There's some extra money. Infrastructure we need to spend money on. But with some of those increases, they're investments. I look at your money as I'm a steward of it. I'm investing your money. I'm not spending it, I'm investing it. Welfare. I didn't talk about that yet. We grew up on welfare. One of the reasons why I can win Democratic votes is because I talk about how I grew up on welfare. I'm a union member. I'm a military guy. You sure you're Republican? Yeah, I'm Republican. And then I talk about common sense, conservative, constitutional solutions, and we don't worry about party anymore. And now we're talking about how to fix America, and we see eye to eye. And that's how we win those votes. Where was I going with that? Man, I get so... But anyways,
Welfare.
Welfare, thank you. Welfare is an investment in our people, in their time of need, to get them back on their feet so they can become productive members of society again. And it's an investment, and I'm a great example. I've paid my welfare money back I don't know how many times over. As a kid, I was getting it as a kid, but I've paid for my mom and my sister plenty, trust me, in taxes. So, you look at investing your money and not wasting it, throwing it away. So anyways, we're wrapping up. What else you got? Anybody? Anybody?
Can you
All
see
right.
how great education is and all this wonderful testing?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming today. Thank you very much for giving me your time and attention. I will ask you, there's my wonderful daughter over there, and Dave Miller in the white shirt, and what is that tie? That is an ugly tie.
You hate this time? Now? After 7 town halls, you hate this time? It's my town hall time, man.
Hey, at least you got rid of the blue.
I can't tell what color it is.
I don't like yours. That's an American flag, that's #1.
That's how we have fun. It's a wonderful tie, I just can't tell what color it is. Green. Well, now you all know who Dave is. So it worked. It
I'm a
worked.
hired gun from New York, by the way.
So anyways, Dave, my wife, Christy, talk to them. Please sign up, volunteer. We've got some things to do yet before the primary, and then after the primary, we'll have a lot more work to do. If you can, please write a check, drop some cash off, help us,
Alex,
help us win this race.
you can